The day Earth changed forever started like any other on the Lunar Defense Station. Admiral James Stone stood at the main window, looking at the blue marble of Earth hanging in the darkness of space. His gray hair and the lines on his face showed his years of service, but his eyes remained sharp as ever. The peace of that moment shattered when every alarm in the station began to scream. "Sir, multiple unknown objects coming through some kind of portal near Mars." The young radar operator's voice shook as he spoke. "They're huge, Admiral. Bigger than anything we've ever built." Stone rushed to the command center, his boots clicking against the metal floor. The main screen showed 5 massive ships, each one at least 3 miles long, emerging from swirling blue holes in space. Their dark metal hulls gleamed in the sunlight, covered in strange markings that no human had ever seen before. "Get me Earth Command," Stone ordered, his voice steady despite the fear trying to crawl up his spine. "And wake up every ship we have." Before Earth's fleet could even power up their engines, a message boomed through every communication channel in perfect English. "People of Earth, you are now part of the Galactic Empire. Your planet holds a strategic position in our expansion plans. Surrender now, and you will be given status as a protectorate world. Resist, and we will make an example of you. You have 1 hour to decide." Stone looked at the faces of his crew. Some showed fear, others anger, but all waited for his response. He pressed the button to broadcast to all Earth forces. "All ships, battle stations. I don't care if these aliens can speak English or if their ships are bigger than cities. This is our home, and we don't surrender it to bullies." The Earth Defense Fleet wasn't large. Just 40 ships that humanity had built for protecting Earth and its Mars colonies. But as they moved into position, Stone felt proud. Every ship represented thousands of hours of human work and ingenuity. The Empire didn't even wait the full hour. Their ships moved toward Mars, where 5,000 people lived under the colony domes. Stone watched in horror as one of the Imperial ships pointed a weapon at the largest dome. But something unexpected happened. The beam of energy that shot from the Imperial ship splashed harmlessly off the dome's shields. The Mars Defense Shield, built to protect against solar radiation and meteor strikes, somehow stopped their attack. "Sir," Dr. Tom Reed, the station's chief scientist, rushed onto the bridge. "Their weapons, they're using some kind of focused plasma beam. Our shields were designed to stop exactly that kind of energy." Stone's mind raced. If their mighty weapons couldn't easily destroy a simple colony shield, maybe humanity had a chance. He grabbed the command microphone. "All ships, prepare to engage. Mars colony, divert all power to your shields. Earth fleet, show these empire builders that humanity doesn't bow to threats." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Earth's smaller ships darted between the massive Imperial vessels, their weapons finding weak spots in the alien shields. The Empire's ships were powerful but slow, designed to fight other large ships, not the swarm of smaller craft that now attacked them from all directions. When the dust settled, 1 Imperial ship had been destroyed, 2 were damaged, and the others retreated through their portals. Humanity had bloodied the nose of a galactic superpower. But Stone knew this was just the beginning. As he watched the Imperial ships disappear, he turned to his crew. "Send word to every nation on Earth. We're at war with an empire that spans the stars, and we just proved they're not invincible." In the days that followed, humanity would learn that they had done something unprecedented. They had survived first contact with the Empire and even fought back successfully. But they had also learned a terrible truth. Earth was now part of a much larger conflict, and the Empire would return. The time to prepare had begun. 3 months after the first attack, Captain Mark Wilson walked through the twisted metal halls of the captured Imperial ship. The massive vessel had crashed near the Arctic Circle after the battle, and now it served as humanity's greatest research center. His footsteps echoed as he made his way to the main research lab, where Dr. Anna Reed waited with news that would change the course of the war. "Captain, you need to see this," Dr. Reed said, not looking up from her work. Her desk was covered with pieces of Imperial technology and half-empty coffee cups. She hadn't slept properly in days, but her eyes sparkled with excitement. We figured out why our weapons worked against their shields. Wilson leaned over her shoulder, looking at the complex diagrams on her screen. He wasn't a scientist, but he had learned enough in the past months to follow along. Their shields, Reed explained, pointing to various parts of the diagram, are designed to stop energy weapons far more advanced than ours. But our simple projectile weapons and older-style plasma guns, they never thought to defend against them. It's like they forgot the basics while reaching for the stars. In the command center of the newly formed United Earth Defense Council, Admiral Stone received this news with a rare smile. Representatives from every major nation sat around the table, their faces showing hope for the first time since the war began. "So you're telling me," Stone said, "that humanity's primitive weapons might be our greatest advantage?" "More than that," Reed's voice came through the speaker. "We can combine our technology with theirs. Their power sources with our weapons, their navigation systems with our targeting computers. Everything they thought made us primitive might help us beat them." The council meeting lasted through the night. By morning, they had a plan. Every shipyard on Earth would work around the clock. They would build a fleet unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Ships that combined the best of both worlds. Wilson found himself in charge of testing the first of these new vessels. The UES Thunder, smaller than Imperial ships, but packed with hybrid technology, proved itself in its first trial run by outmaneuvering every drone they tested it against. "It's not just about the technology," Wilson told his crew after the test. "The Empire thinks in straight lines. Attack, defend, retreat. But humans, we think differently. We adapt. We surprise. And now we have the tools to prove it." As weeks passed, more ships joined the Thunder. Each one carried weapons that looked simple to Imperial scanners, but packed surprises that their shields couldn't stop. Dr. Reed's team worked nonstop, finding new ways to combine Earth and Imperial tech. The Empire's spies reported back about the humans building ships, but their masters laughed at the reports. How could a primitive species that had barely reached their own moon hope to challenge the might of a galactic empire? They didn't understand that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to learn, adapt, and think in ways the Empire never considered. Every primitive solution they created was another weapon the Empire wouldn't expect. In his quarters aboard the Thunder, Wilson looked at the latest fleet report. 20 ships ready, 40 more being built. Not enough to challenge the Empire's thousands, but maybe enough to show them that humanity wouldn't go quietly. "All hands," he announced over the ship's speakers, "prepare for departure. We have our first mission." As the Thunder and its sister ships lifted off from Earth's surface, Wilson thought about how far they'd come. 3 months ago, humanity didn't know they weren't alone in the galaxy. Now they were about to take the fight to an empire that spanned the stars. The resistance wasn't just born. It was ready to strike. Captain Lisa Brown stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, watching the stars blur past the view screen. Her ship led a fleet of 30 vessels toward their first major target, an Imperial supply base near Alpha Centauri. The Empire had built it there shortly after their first attack on Earth, thinking themselves safe so close to the primitive humans. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All ships, battle positions," Brown ordered. Her crew moved with quiet efficiency, each person knowing their role in what would become humanity's first offensive strike against the Empire. "Remember your training. Remember Earth." The Imperial base came into view, a massive ring-shaped station with supply ships docked all around it. The Empire had built it to support their planned invasion of Earth. Now it would become their first major defeat. "They're scanning us," reported Jack Miller, the sensor officer. His hands moved quickly over the controls. But just like Dr. Reed predicted, they're not seeing our new weapons. Their scans are bouncing off the hybrid shielding. Brown allowed herself a small smile. The Empire's overconfidence was about to cost them dearly. Launch fighters. Attack pattern Delta. Human fighters swarmed out from the larger ships, moving in ways that Imperial tactical computers said were impossible. The Empire had forgotten about dogfighting, about the art of close combat in space. Their automated defense systems couldn't track the erratic, human-controlled movements. Imperial ships launching, Miller called out. 5 heavy cruisers. They're laughing at us, Captain. Broadcasting on open channels about how primitive our ships look. Let them laugh, Brown replied, her voice steady. Weapons, target the lead cruiser. Show them what primitive looks like. The Defiant's main gun fired. To Imperial scanners, it looked like a simple projectile weapon. They didn't bother raising their advanced shields, expecting their basic armor to easily deflect such a primitive attack. They never saw the quantum warhead hidden inside. The lead cruiser exploded in a burst of light that briefly outshone the nearby stars. The Imperial communications channel went silent. All ships, execute battle plan, Brown ordered. Strike fast, strike hard. Don't let them adapt. What followed was chaos, but a carefully planned chaos. Human ships darted between the massive Imperial vessels, firing weapons that looked harmless until they hit. Fighter pilots pulled maneuvers that Imperial computers insisted were suicidal, only to emerge alive and victorious. The Empire's rigid battle doctrine fell apart in the face of human unpredictability. Their ships tried to form defensive lines, but the humans simply flowed around them like water around rocks. Station's defenses are down, Miller reported, his voice tense with excitement. Their backup systems are trying to compensate, but they've never seen attacks like this. They don't know which threats are real and which are decoys. Brown keyed her command channel. All ships, Phase 2. Take that station. Marine dropships launched from the human fleet, carrying troops trained in zero-gravity combat. The Empire had forgotten about boarding actions, relying too heavily on ship-to-ship combat. They had no defense against soldiers who cut through their hulls and fought their way through corridors. 2 hours later, it was over. The Imperial supply base was under human control, its databases being downloaded for analysis. Of the 5 Imperial cruisers, 3 were destroyed and 2 had fled, carrying news of defeat back to their masters. Brown stood in the captured station's command center, looking at the Imperial star charts now displayed on their screens. Send word to Earth, she ordered. First strike successful. And tell them what we found in their computers. Coordinates for every Imperial base in this sector. As her crew celebrated their victory, Brown allowed herself to feel a moment of pride. Humanity hadn't just won a battle. They had proven they could take the fight to the Empire. The galaxy would never be the same. The Resistance had bared its teeth, and the Empire had felt the bite. News of the human victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Admiral Stone watched the reports flood in from captured Imperial communication networks. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species were beginning to whisper about the humans who had bloodied the Empire's nose. In her lab on Earth, Dr. Reed worked with a new ally, a tall, blue-skinned engineer from a species called the Builders. They had reached out to Earth secretly after hearing about the hybrid technology humans had created. Your people think differently than any species we've seen, the Builder said, his translator converting his musical language to English. We've lived under the Empire for 300 years, never thinking to combine technologies this way. Reed smiled as she showed him their latest project, a new kind of stealth system that used Imperial power cores in ways their makers never imagined. Sometimes the best ideas come from necessity. We had to think differently to survive. On the bridge of the UES Thunder, Captain Wilson prepared his fleet for another strike. The Empire had sent a massive force to crush the human rebellion, 300 ships against humanity's growing fleet of 50. They still don't understand, Wilson told his crew as they watched the Imperial Armada approach. They think numbers alone will win this fight. Show them how wrong they are. The battle that followed would be studied in war colleges for generations. The Imperial fleet moved in perfect formation, following tactical doctrines that had served them for 1,000 years. Wilson's ships scattered like leaves in the wind, each one following paths that Imperial computers labeled as illogical and inefficient. But there was logic in the chaos. As the Empire's fleet split up to chase the human ships, they fell right into Admiral Stone's trap. A second human fleet dropped out of stealth mode behind them, using the new technology Reed and the builders had created. Now they have to divide their attention. Stone broadcast to all ships. Remember your training. Fight smart, not fair. The human ships struck from multiple directions, their hybrid weapons tearing through Imperial defenses. Decades of watching action movies had taught humanity lessons about space combat that the Empire had never considered. Their ships spun and rolled in ways that made Imperial gunners miss again and again. More alien allies joined the fight. The Runners, a species known for their fast ships, sent pilots to learn human combat techniques. The Warriors, a proud race that had fought the Empire for generations, offered their strength to the human cause. We were fighting alone, each species trying to resist the Empire in our own way. The warrior leader told Stone during a strategy meeting. Humans showed us that we're stronger together. Dr. Reed's team worked nonstop, combining knowledge from their new allies with human innovation. Each breakthrough was shared freely with their alien friends, building trust and cooperation that the Empire couldn't understand. The Empire's response was predictable. They sent even more ships, thinking that overwhelming force was the answer. They couldn't grasp that each defeat taught humanity and their allies new lessons, making them stronger. Let them come, Stone told the United Earth Defense Council. Every ship they send is another chance for us to show the galaxy that they're not invincible. Wilson stood on his bridge, watching the aftermath of another victory. The Imperial fleet had retreated, leaving behind disabled ships that would soon join humanity's growing armada. Send word to Earth, he ordered. The Empire's getting desperate. They're committing more forces than we expected. Tell Dr. Reed we'll need those new shield modifications soon. As the fleet regrouped, messages of support poured in from across the galaxy. Species that had been silent for centuries were beginning to hope again. The human resistance wasn't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting for every world that dreamed of freedom. The Empire's grip on the galaxy was starting to slip, one battle at a time. Operation Ghost Fleet began in the darkness between stars. Captain Wilson stood on the bridge of the Thunder, watching as his ships disappeared one by one under their new stealth systems. Dr. Reed's latest invention made them invisible, not just to Imperial sensors, but to the naked eye as well. All ships dark, his communications officer reported. The Empire's border patrols don't see us. Wilson nodded, his face lit by the dim glow of emergency lighting. Begin Phase 1. Let's give the Empire something to chase. Across the galaxy, Admiral Stone prepared the real attack. While Wilson's fleet would draw Imperial forces away from their core worlds, Stone's larger fleet waited in secret. The Empire's arrogance would be their downfall. They never imagined that humans could plan something this complex. Status report on the Ghost Fleet. Stone asked his command staff. Wilson's tactics are working perfectly, sir, replied his tactical officer. The Empire's taking the bait. They've already diverted 30% of their home fleet to chase his attacking force. Stone allowed himself a small smile. The Empire's rigid thinking made them predictable. They assumed Wilson's fleet was humanity's main attack force because it was being obvious about its movements. They never thought to look for a second fleet. In her lab, Dr. Reed worked with their alien allies to put the finishing touches on their secret weapon. The device looked simple, a small box that could fit in one hand. But inside it was technology that combined human creativity with knowledge from 5 different alien species. Will it work? Stone asked during a secure transmission. Reed held up the device. The Empire built their entire defense network on quantum communications. This device will shut it all down. They'll be blind and deaf, but only for 10 minutes. 10 minutes will be enough, Stone replied. If Wilson does his job right, most of their ships will be too far away to help anyway. Wilson's Ghost Fleet struck target after target, always appearing just long enough to draw Imperial attention before vanishing again. Each attack pulled more Imperial ships away from their core worlds, like a matador waving a red cape. "They're really angry now," Wilson told his crew after their latest raid. "Their commanders are so focused on catching us that they're not seeing the bigger picture, just like we planned." The Empire's response was exactly what humanity had hoped for. They pulled more and more ships from their home defense fleet, determined to crush this irritating human force that kept slipping through their fingers. 70% of their home fleet has been diverted, Stone's tactical officer reported. They're spread thin, trying to predict where Wilson will strike next. Stone looked at the strategic display, watching as Imperial ships moved further and further from their core worlds. The Empire's masters were furious that a primitive species could embarrass them like this. Their pride demanded that they destroy Wilson's fleet completely. "Send the signal," Stone ordered. "Tell Wilson he's done his part. It's time for Phase 2. On the Thunder, Wilson received the message and smiled. His fleet had led the Empire's ships on a wild chase through half the galaxy, and now they were too far away to help their homeworld. "All ships, new coordinates," he ordered. "Let's join up with Admiral Stone. I want to see the Empire's face when they realize what we've done." As Wilson's fleet slipped away, Imperial commanders were still searching the sectors where they'd last been seen. By the time they realized they'd been tricked, it would be too late. The real attack was about to begin, and the Empire's heart was nearly defenseless. Operation Ghost Fleet had worked perfectly. Now it was time for the killing blow. The Imperial capital world hung in space like a jewel, its ring of defensive stations gleaming in the light of 3 suns. For 1,000 years, no enemy fleet had ever come within sight of this world. That was about to change. Admiral Stone's combined fleet dropped out of stealth mode all at once. 500 ships from 20 different species, led by humanity's newest vessels. The Empire's remaining defenders didn't know what to do. Their tactical computers couldn't process the sight of so many different ships working together. "All ships, battle formations," Stone ordered from his flagship. "Remember, we only need to hold them for 10 minutes after Dr. Reed activates the device. Make every second count." Captain Wilson's Ghost Fleet appeared next, dropping out of stealth behind the Imperial defenses. The Empire's commanders watched in horror as they realized how completely they'd been outmaneuvered. "Send the signal," Stone commanded. In her lab on one of the human ships, Dr. Reed activated her device. Across the Imperial capital system, every quantum communication network went dark. Defense stations lost contact with each other. Automated weapons stopped responding. The mighty Imperial war machine, dependent on its advanced technology, began to fall apart. "Forward," Stone's voice rang through all Allied ships. For Earth and for freedom. The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. Human ships led the charge, using tactics that the Empire had dismissed as obsolete. Fighter pilots engaged in dogfights between the massive capital ships. Boarding parties cut their way into defense stations. The Empire's remaining ships fought back hard, but they were confused and disorganized. Without their quantum network, they couldn't coordinate their defenses. Each ship fought alone, while the Allied fleet worked together like a well-oiled machine. Imperial reinforcements detected. Wilson's sensor officer called out, "Their home fleet is trying to return." But the Empire's ships were too far away, just as planned. They had chased Wilson's Ghost Fleet to the edges of Imperial space, and now they couldn't get back in time to save their capital. On the surface of the Imperial capital world, the Palace of 1,000 Suns trembled as human marines and their alien allies landed in the streets. The Imperial Guard fought bravely, but they had never faced an enemy that combined so many different fighting styles at once. "The palace defenses are breaking," Stone's tactical officer reported. "Our ground forces are inside the main gate. The Imperial Council is trying to evacuate." Stone watched as more Imperial ships arrived, too late to change the outcome. The battle wasn't over, but its result was already decided. In just a few hours, humanity and their allies had done what no one had managed in 1,000 years. They had struck at the very heart of the Empire. "Send word to all ships," Stone ordered. "Push forward. Don't let the Imperial Council escape. Today we end this." The Empire's mighty warships, designed to fight enemies just like themselves, had no answer for the combined tactics of 20 different species. Human ingenuity, builder technology, runner speed, and warrior strength all worked together in ways the Empire had never imagined possible. As the last Imperial defense station fell, Stone looked at the Palace of 1,000 Suns through his ship's view screen. The Empire's flag was coming down, and in its place rose a new banner, one that showed the symbols of Earth and all their alien allies together. "Status report," he called out. "The Imperial Council is captured, sir," his communications officer replied. "The palace is secure. The Empire has fallen." 1,000 years of Imperial rule had ended in a single day, brought down by the species they had dismissed as primitive. Humanity had not only survived, they had united the galaxy and overthrown an empire. The age of Imperial rule was over. The age of freedom had begun. 1 year after the fall of the Imperial capital, Admiral Stone stood in the Great Hall of the newly built Galactic Assembly. The massive room was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds, former Imperial planets now free to choose their own path. "It's quite a sight, isn't it?" Captain Wilson said, walking up beside him. His uniform now bore the insignia of the new Galactic Defense Fleet, a combination of Earth's symbols and those of their allies. Stone nodded, watching as alien diplomats mingled freely with humans. A year ago, most of these species had never even spoken to each other. The Empire kept them isolated, afraid. Now look at them. In her new research center, Dr. Reed worked with scientists from 30 different species. The Empire's strict controls on technology were gone, replaced by an open exchange of ideas. Every day brought new discoveries as different species shared their knowledge freely. The Empire thought keeping everyone separate made them stronger, Reed told her team as they unveiled their latest project, a new type of medical scanner that combined techniques from 5 different worlds. They never understood that our differences make us stronger together. The changes weren't just happening in the assembly and research labs. Across the galaxy, former Imperial worlds were discovering their own paths. Some chose to join the new Galactic Federation that Earth had helped create. Others decided to remain independent but friendly. The important thing was that now they had a choice. Trade routes are up 300%, Wilson reported during a council meeting. Worlds that never knew about each other under Imperial rule are now becoming close partners, and our combined fleet keeps the peace better than the Empire ever did. The Imperial war machine, once thought invincible, had been dismantled. Its ships were either destroyed or converted for peaceful use. The quantum communication network that once controlled the Empire now connected free worlds together, thanks to modifications by Dr. Reed and her team. The Empire's biggest mistake, Stone told a group of young officers, wasn't attacking Earth. It was assuming that because we were less advanced, we were less capable. They never understood that technology isn't everything. Innovation, adaptation, cooperation. These are the real keys to advancement. The former Imperial Palace had been transformed into a center of learning, where species from across the galaxy could share their knowledge and culture. In its grand library, the story of humanity's resistance was already becoming legend, how a single primitive species had shown the galaxy that unity was stronger than oppression. "We're getting more applications for the Academy," Wilson told Stone as they walked through the halls. Species that never had a chance to explore space under Imperial rule now want to join our combined fleet. They say Earth showed them what's possible when you dare to dream. Stone stopped at a window, looking out at the stars. A year ago, those same stars had seemed like barriers, keeping species apart. Now they were bridges, connecting the galaxy of free peoples. "Did you ever think," he asked Wilson, when we first faced those Imperial ships at Earth, that we'd end up here? Wilson smiled. Honestly, no. But that's the thing about humans. We don't always know if we can do something, but we try anyway. And sometimes, that makes all the difference. In orbit above them, ships from 100 worlds moved peacefully through space. The Imperial banners were gone, replaced by symbols of cooperation and friendship. Humanity had not only survived their first contact with galactic civilization, they had helped reshape it. The galaxy's a bigger place now, Stone said, watching a group of alien children tour the assembly with their human guides. But somehow, it feels more like home than ever. The Empire had wanted to make an example of humanity. Instead, humanity had shown the galaxy a better way, one where different species worked together, where innovation and cooperation meant more than raw power, where freedom and friendship replaced fear and control. A new age had begun, and it all started because humanity refused to bow to an empire.